Beads of sweat drop down a young girl's face as she prepares to give birth. All her life, she never imagined being in a situation like this. We go back to the past, where our main character, Nora, is still a young obedient child. She delivers some food to table 3 as instructed by her mother. Suddenly, the pregnant woman she is serving goes into labor. The lady is taken to the hospital by Nora's dad, and Nora inquires about the surgery the woman is about to undergo. Her father compares it to the surgery Nora recently had for appendicitis. He tells her that the surgery they performed on her was to remove a disease, but the surgery they are performing on the lady is to deliver a baby. Since then, Nora dreams of becoming an OBGYN, a gynecologist. After learning about his daughter's interest in becoming a doctor, her father decides to sell their house to prepare financially for her studies. He convinces his family that they are moving to a better place and makes only one request of Nora: to study hard and not date anyone. Nora keeps that promise until one day when she meets a boy she falls in love with. Nora heads to a basketball game with her friends, and everyone hypes up one player in particular, a player named Yuda. They are convinced his team will win because of him. All the girls swoon over Yuda, wishing to be with him. Eventually, Yuda scores the final point and his team wins. Nora gets a text from someone expecting to meet her at 4 p.m., and she bids her friends goodbye. After getting out of her taxi, she bumps into a man. The man sits down in the taxi and notices that the girl left her phone behind. He accidentally reads her messages but heads inside the mall to return the phone to her. After he leaves, the person Nora has been waiting for arrives. It's Yuda. The duo has fun at the mall all day and heads back to his luxurious house as it begins to pour. Yuda isn't going back to Japan with his parents because he wants to finish his studies here. Yuda excuses himself and comes back with a gift for his girlfriend. It's a beautiful necklace. Nora also has a gift for him, a headband with both their initials on it. One thing leads to another, and Nora realizes she has crossed the line with Yuda. Sometime later, Nora isn't allowed inside the school as it's too late, so she jumps over the wall to get in. She falls on her butt and is taken aback when she sees the man who returned her phone. It's Keenan. He asks her about her secret boyfriend, and she makes him promise not to tell anyone. He offers her his jacket to cover the dirt stain on her skirt, and she thanks him before leaving. Later, Yuda approaches Nora, angry that she has been avoiding him for a month, but she leaves without responding. She encounters a bizarre scene where a man is being bullied, but Keenan takes the lead and beats up the bullies. Keenan gets into trouble for this, but Nora stands up for him. Later, she hands him his jacket back, and he thanks her for standing up for him. Yuda silently watches this happen and doesn't seem too happy about it. Yuda approaches Nora again, but she ignores him. He texts her, asking why she is avoiding him and if she regrets being with him. Yuda apologizes if he ever made her feel uncomfortable and tells her he loves her and will never leave her. This makes Nora's heart skip a beat, and she calls him, even though he is standing right behind her. He promises her over the phone, and they agree to call each other later that night. As Yuda plays basketball, a cheerleader named Celine walks up to him and asks to talk with him. She confesses her feelings to him. Yuda apologizes to her and tells her that he already has a girlfriend. Celine is taken aback but asks him the name of his girlfriend, and he unexpectedly tells her it's Nora. Everyone is shocked by this revelation. Even Nora's closest friends aren't aware of this. Nora gets up and leaves, as she isn't too happy about it. She tells Yuda to go back and tell Celine that he was lying, but he snaps and says he's done with lying. He reassures Nora and tells her that her parents won't find out about their relationship through strangers. Instead, Yuda promises to talk to them himself. We switch scenes to Celine getting scolded by her dad for not coming in first place and for her dropping grades. Celine says that the person with higher grades than her is just lucky, but her father isn't too fond of the word luck. He asks her if she thinks their wealth came from pure luck. He explains that her grandfather was a poor man, and her father, the son of a farmer, built a business with his blood, sweat, and tears. After being nagged about coming in second place by both her parents, Celine announces that she's going out to practice as she's a cheerleader, but her father doesn't allow her to since her grades aren't satisfactory. Celine starts breaking down in her room and gets a call from her friends asking why she isn't coming. She explains her situation and then decides that she wants to date Keenan. Her friends don't like his attitude, but she tells them that his parents are divorced. She used to go to school with him in junior high, and he was her first love. Keenan heads back home to his mother yelling at him because she receives another phone call from his school. She is also unhappy with her son's below-average grades and his secret drinking. He tells his mom to calm down, but she reminds him that he is the heir to her hotel business, no one else. He needs to lock in, but he doesn't like being controlled. Keenan heads inside his house and plays the piano out of frustration. Meanwhile, Yuda and Nora talk to her parents about their relationship, and they aren't too happy about it. She tells her parents that she always gets the highest grades and has everything balanced. She tries to convince them that she can manage her own life. Her father still isn't convinced and is mad at her for breaking her promise. She apologizes to them, and eventually, he agrees to let them date. However, he tells his daughter to remind Yuta that he is a boxer, and if anything happens to his daughter, Yuta will face the consequences. Her father leaves to take a call, and Nora starts feeling sick. She throws up, and her mother becomes very worried. At school, Nora learns about pregnancy and begins to suspect something is wrong with her. Celine trips Nora and Keenan sees it happen. The student council also notices and takes Celine with them to receive disciplinary action. Nora is taken to the infirmary in a hurry as she feels unwell. Yuta rushes to check on her, but she downplays her pain, calling it normal stomach cramps. Yuta meets Keenan outside the room and tells him to stay away from Nora. They decide to settle things with a basketball game the next day. If Keenan loses, he will stay away from Nora, but if Keenan wins, he can get close to Nora if he wants. Nora heads to a convenience store and buys some items, including a pregnancy test. Keenan is standing right behind Nora and startles her, asking why she's buying a pregnancy test. She lies to him, saying it's for her mother. The match commences. It's Keenan versus Yuta. Meanwhile, Nora uses her pregnancy test and is shocked to find out that she's pregnant. Yuta ends up winning the intense match, and Nora heads to the arena to tell Yuta that she's pregnant. Just to be sure, she checks a few more times, and they all come back positive. Nora accidentally leaves her pregnancy test in the taxi, and some cheerleaders find it. They come up to her, asking if it's hers. The girls ask Nora if she is pregnant, but she sternly denies it, claiming the test isn't hers. The girls insist the driver told them that a girl in white owned the test. Nora points out how many girls are wearing white and tells them to look around. After hearing this, the girls leave. Yuta tries to convince Nora to see a doctor, but she refuses. Nora can't bear to tell her parents about her pregnancy. When she heads into their shop, her father asks for her help as there are a lot of customers, but she tells him she can't because she is experiencing stomach pain. Later, Nora has a mental breakdown in her bathroom and tries calling Yuta, but he ignores her calls. The next day at school, Yuta is still ignoring Nora. Her friends wonder if they had a fight. In class, Keenan becomes infuriated after seeing someone has written cheater about his father on his desk. Keenan drags the desk outside for everyone to see and bangs on it, demanding to know who wrote it. It turns out to be the 3 bullies from earlier. He tells them to erase it, but they refuse, claiming what they wrote is the truth. A fight breaks out between Keenan and the bullies, and Keenan absolutely demolishes them before the teacher steps in and calls everyone involved to his office. Keenan's parents are called, and he is grounded for a week. His parents have an argument, and Keenan walks off. He meets Nora, who asks if he's alright. She puts a bandage over his wound and reassures him that everything will be fine. After saying this, Nora heads to class but is stopped by her friends, who inform her that she has been called to the teacher's office because Celine told everyone that someone at school is pregnant. Nora and Yuta are needed as witnesses. The teacher asks Celine and her friends to bring the taxi driver to testify, but they insist they can't. Nora is asked if she saw anything suspicious at the arena, but she denies seeing anything out of the ordinary. The teacher asks for Nora's help in finding the pregnant student, as the school will not allow the owner of the pregnancy test to continue studying there. At Yuta's basketball game, he is distracted, but his team still ends up winning. The coach tells Yuta that he needs to focus. Nora texts Yuta, insisting he stop ignoring her and meet up later. They meet soon after, and Yuta yells that they should talk about it later because he needs to focus on training for an important match. Nora is worried that teachers will find out she's pregnant. Yuta suggests she get an abortion, but she calls it a sin and murder. Yuta reminds her that what they did was also a sin, but Nora isn't open to the idea of aborting the child. Yuta tries to convince her it's the best option, and she asks if he's planning to move to Japan with his parents. He assures her that he won't. At school, Celine and her lackeys continue their persistent bullying. Nora finally has enough and asks if the disciplinary action wasn't enough for them. They tell Nora to stop exaggerating, claiming it was just an accident, but she retorts that she isn't stupid and knows the difference. She threatens to report their actions, but they laugh at her, saying she has no evidence. Nora points to the camera behind them. In detention, Celine approaches Keenan and asks why he didn't like her in junior high. He tells her it was because she's superficial and judges everything on the surface level. Celine tells Keenan she wants to change, and then she receives a message about a house party at Ali's house. She invites Keenan to come along, and he reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, Nora tries various methods she finds on the internet and even takes medicine to abort her child, but all it does is make her sick in the morning. Yuta comes up with one last idea and takes her to a place where his maid brought her sister for an abortion. They head inside, and the place is outright creepy. A woman inspects Nora's stomach and confirms she is pregnant. She assures Nora that the child is healthy and asks if they are sure about going through with the abortion. Yuda is told to wait outside. The woman motions how she will remove the baby, startling Nora. She gets up and leaves, refusing to be part of it. The duo decides to head to the party at Ali's house later that day to avoid raising any suspicions. Everyone is having fun at Ali's house, but Nora isn't too pleased to see Yuda drinking. She hands him water to help him sober up, and he promises not to get drunk. Nora starts feeling sick again and throws up in the bathroom. Celine and her gang catch her and ask if she drank too much or if she's pregnant. Nora denies it again. She heads outside to drink some water, and Keenan helps her open it. As they sit down, he asks Nora why she's so nice to him. She dismisses the question and tells him he just needs some motivation. Keenan laughs and says he feels motivated now. A commotion arises when one of Celine's friends gathers everyone to announce that someone was throwing up in the bathroom earlier. She confronts Nora and hands her a pregnancy test, demanding that she use it. As the girl tries to drag Nora to the bathroom, Keenan intervenes, telling the group how outrageous and unnecessary their behavior is. Yuda pushes Keenan out of the way and picks a fight with him. Nora tries to explain that Keenan was only trying to help her, but a fight breaks out between the two. Both of them swing at each other until Nora throws water on them to stop the fight. As Nora runs to leave, she gets pushed into the pool. Yuda rushes to get her out, and Nora starts bleeding, proving to everyone that she isn't pregnant. Nora is taken away, and Celine tends to Keenan's wounds. Yuda and Nora go to the hospital, where they find out Nora is 10 weeks pregnant. She gets an ultrasound, sees the baby, and listens to its heartbeat. Later at home, she reflects on what the doctor told her, that any sickness she feels after this is due to her pregnancy, and the bleeding was caused by fatigue. Nora stares at her ultrasound and takes a picture of it. Yuda's parents are packing, and they ask him if he's sure he doesn't want to leave. He says he's sure. Nora sends him the picture of the ultrasound and tells him she wants to keep the baby. They start to argue, and Yuda tells her that he's not ready, and neither is she. Nora cries, and her mom walks in, discovering that Nora is pregnant. Nora's mother starts crying, and her father walks in, also finding out. Nora's father orders her to call Yuda, and she complies, but he doesn't pick up. Nora's father demands to know Yuda's address, and she reluctantly gives it to him. He heads to Yuda's home with his trusty broom in hand. He demands to meet Yuda's parents, but Yuda informs him that they left earlier. Yuda runs away from Nora's dad, and they fall into the pool. Nora's dad briefly holds Yuda underwater, asking him where his audacity came from. Yuda escapes and tells Nora's dad to go back home. Her dad swears to find Yuda's parents to tell them what their son has done. He breaks the glass door with his bare knuckles and heads back home. Yuda's parents return and ask him if he's okay after seeing the broken glass door. His mother has a panic attack. The next day, Nora and her family head to Yuda's house, where they find out that the entire family has left the country. They have all moved to Japan. Nora is shocked by this revelation. They rush to the airport to find them but aren't allowed in without a passport and ticket. Nora starts crying after this betrayal, unable to believe that Yuda broke his promise of never leaving while she is pregnant with his child. Nora thinks about her life and asks us what we would do if we were in her situation. She is confronted by her dad, and she tells him that she wants to reach out to Yuda again. Her father is against this idea and tells her that Yuda is a coward who runs away from his responsibilities. Nora's father asks her if she thinks any school would accept her in her pregnant state. He reminds her how hard it is to manage studies and a child at the same time. Convinced that he has failed as a father, he starts breaking down, telling her that she has destroyed her future with her own 2 hands. Nora gets on her knees and starts pleading with her dad, regretting everything she's done wrong. This is the first time Nora has ever seen her dad truly angry at her. She gets on her knees again to apologize to her mother, but she is ignored instead. Nora sees the way her mom refuses to look into her eyes. Nora wants to blame someone for this, but she can't blame anyone but herself for everything that has taken place. A couple of days later, she heads to school, where she meets Keenan, who asks her if she's okay since she looks like she's been crying. She assures Keenan that she is okay. He also apologizes for fighting with Yuda in front of her. Nora's friends leap onto her as they missed her so much. They ask her if she is aware that Yuda is moving to Japan. She says she didn't know, as she broke up with him. Keenan is happy to find this out. Celine isn't too happy about this since she has feelings for Keenan, and she doesn't want him getting any closer to Nora. Now that Yuda is gone, it's easier for him to do so. In Tokyo, Keenan receives a message from Celine, who asks him about his sudden move to Japan. She also tells him about how Keenan and Nora have gotten close. Yuda messages Nora, telling her to stay away from Keenan, but he accidentally sends it to Celine instead. Yuda messages Celine, telling her that he has nothing to do with either Celine or Nora anymore. Nora tries to call Yuda, but yet again, it is in vain. She stands in the rain as she contemplates her life. She can't bear to see the disappointment in her parents' faces. The only thing she can do right now is run without a destination in mind. She hopes there is someone who will hold her hand, since no one wants to associate with her anymore. Nora throws the necklace she received from Yuda into the water and prepares to jump in herself, but she is pulled back by Kenan, who is beyond shocked. He tells her to dry up and asks her why she is doing that. He helps her dry up and hugs her as she can't stop crying. Back at home, her father asks her if she still wants an abortion. He says that her dream of being an OBGYN contradicts her getting an abortion. Every time she will deliver a baby, she will be reminded of her own. Will she be able to live with that? Nora doesn't know what to do, and her father suggests she give birth without anyone knowing. She is okay with that idea, but she doesn't know how she will financially support her baby, and there is no way no one will find out about her pregnancy. Her parents decide that they will move to hide her pregnancy. Soon, she tells her friends at school that she is moving to Papua. They ask for the reason, and she tells them that it's because of her dad's business. She tells her friends that his mom is pregnant and that she will have a sibling soon. Her friends find it weird that just now Yuda moved, and Nora is moving as well. Her friends tell her that they will miss her. Celine and her friends are happy that Nora is moving away, as Celine can be top of the class again and Kenan won't be getting any closer to her. Her friends want to check one last time if Nora is pregnant or not. They convince a teacher to have Nora checked. After they leave, we see that Nora just used the apple juice she had in her bag as the pee sample. As Nora and her family pack their things to move, Kenan calls her outside and gives her a flower necklace since Nora means flower. She thanks him, and she sees a note attached to it which confesses love. Kenan swears that he didn't put that card inside the box, which makes Nora laugh. Nora confesses that she still wants to meet Yuda, even after all he did. Nora and her family move to Bali. Her dad accepts his friend's offer to open a restaurant there. They even change the name of the restaurant so that the people in Jakarta won't know that they moved to Bali. All of this is done because of Nora's pregnancy. Nora's family tells the people around them that they moved to Papua so they won't bother visiting since it's so far away. Nora's only chance to go outside is in the early stages of her pregnancy. She can't go out far along in her pregnancy so that she doesn't get caught. After she gives birth, she will go back to school without anyone knowing that her little sibling is actually her own child. And later, she will be able to study at her dream university. 2 months later, at Celine's house, she hands a permission slip to her parents asking them to sign it. It's for a school trip. Her parents ask if she can't just sit this out, but she tells them she will be getting a lot of assignments on the trip. Her mother suggests that she just do her assignments and stay at home, and her father is also in favor of this idea. Even though Celine is top of her class now, her dad is still not satisfied with her grades. They start comparing her to her older sister yet again, like every other time. Celine argues with her parents and tells them that comparing her to her sister doesn't make it any better, it doesn't motivate her, it just makes it worse. Celine tells her dad that all he does is compare his daughters and makes them hate each other. This makes him angry, so he gets up to hit Celine, but she threatens to report him to the police. Her dad gets a call from his oldest daughter, Vanda, the perfect daughter. They start hyping their older daughter up because she won a competition. Celine stomps to her room and forges her parents' signature on the permission slip. Celine heads to Bali with the school, and she gets a message from her mother texting her to come back home. As Nora helps her parents in the restaurant, her mother tells her to go back inside since her bump is big, and as she is heading back inside, she spots Celine and her friends. Nora hides behind the counter but eventually gets caught by Celine. She tells everyone that she's on holiday. She gets invited to her school's basketball game, but she is reluctant. She is told that Kenan is the leader of the basketball team, which shocks her. At the basketball game, the cheerleaders perform, and Nora bumps into Kenan. She tries to avoid him at first, but Kenan ends up striking up a conversation, asking her why she's here. She tells him that she's on holiday but came to the game because her friends were insisting. The game starts, and everyone cheers for Kenan. But everyone is shocked as they see Yuda spawn out of nowhere. Yuda is Kenan's opponent. The game starts, but Nora leaves mid-game. Yuda meets her outside, and she asks him if he's been in Bali all this time, and he says that he was. Nora can't believe that he wasn't in Japan all this time. Nora starts yelling at Yuda for being irresponsible. Yuda explains to Nora that he went to Japan, but he didn't enroll in school there because of the language barrier and they didn't have the facilities that he needed to support his dream, so he went back to Jakarta, but he refused to go back to school there, so he decided to move to Bali where his uncle is. Nora asks Yuda if he has any idea what lengths her parents went through to hide her pregnancy. As he steps away, Yuda asks her how far along she is, and she turns around and tells him that she's 5 months pregnant. She can still hide it because of her clothes, but next month, she won't be able to do that. Nora meets with Keenan, who asks her if they can hang out since no one knows when they can meet again, but Nora politely declines, saying her parents are waiting for her. Keenan asks her if she still wants Yuta back, and she responds that she is done hoping for him to come back. After saying this, she leaves. Yuta oversees Keenan talking to Nora, and he walks up to him. Keenan tells Yuta about what Nora said and calls him a loser. Nora feels both love and hatred for Yuta. She is sick of him but still hoping for him. Her head is telling her to stop thinking about him, but her heart tells her otherwise. Nora is told to stay at home by her parents, but she tells them to wait, asking if she can come since she can't go outside starting next month. It gets boring at home alone. Nora is told she can come only if she promises to stay in the kitchen and not go outside in front of other people. She assures her parents that she won't go outside, and they take her along. Meanwhile, the students from the school look around Bali. Nora takes a video of a ceremony going on nearby. Next to her car, the school bus arrives, the one which holds the students. Celine's lackey tells her about Nora, and Keenan oversees this. Celine and Keenan decide to stalk Nora, and they follow her to her house. Nora doesn't know what to do. She opens the door, all happy, asking them why they came. Celine asks Nora why she's still here, and Nora cooks up a story that her dad has other business meetings to attend, so her stay will be extended. The duo invites Nora to a beach party, and she reluctantly agrees. Nora's friends greet her and ask about her relationship with Keenan. She tells them they are not dating, and they pressure her to take her jacket off. As they are doing so, they realize that her stomach is hard. They inquire about it, and she blames it on stomach issues. She heads to the restroom, and Keenan asks her friends where she is, and they tell him the location. She heads to the restroom, where she sees Yuta, who asks her why she's still there. She doesn't say anything, but Keenan walks up and asks Yuta why he's here. Yuta tells them that his uncle works there. Meanwhile, Celine heads to Nora's family's restaurant and starts questioning the waiter. She finds out that the owners moved from Jakarta to Bali. At the beach, the students play a game where they have to answer questions if the bottle lands on them. The bottle lands on Keenan, who is asked to sing a love song for the girl sitting beside him. Keenan gets his guitar and starts singing, but Yuta gets angry and drags Nora away from him. Yuta tells Nora to stay away from Keenan as he is not a good person. Nora isn't too happy with this suggestion, saying Keenan is a changed person who has reformed himself. He is a better version of himself. Keenan comes to get Nora, and they leave hand in hand. As Keenan and Nora talk, she suddenly passes out. Surrounding them to see what happened, Yuta is shocked to see her state, and they find out someone put alcohol in her drink. She has never drunk before, and on top of that, she's pregnant. Inside Nora's bag, a girl spots some pregnancy meds. Keenan takes Nora to the hospital, where she consults with her doctor, and Nora is shocked when Keenan calls the doctor his aunt. The doctor checks on the baby and tells Nora that she is lucky, that she threw up, and that she needs to drink a lot of water to get all the alcohol out of her system. Nora asks her doctor to keep this incident a secret from her parents, and Keenan, as he doesn't know she's pregnant. After she leaves the doctor's office, Nora is met by Yuta, who asks her how she's feeling. She says she's okay, and he inquires about the baby. She asks him if he's asking that because he doesn't want it to be okay, but he asks her to forgive him. Nora isn't happy that this is a burden only on her shoulders and not on Yuta's. Yuta doesn't know what to do for her, and Nora tells him that all he needs to do is not run away. Nora tells Yuta to come to her house tomorrow if he has the heart and guts to do so. If he doesn't come, Nora will know what kind of person Yuta is. Later, Nora is studying at her table, and her parents walk in. She asks them if they have free time tomorrow because Yuta might be coming. The next day, Yuta has a basketball game, and after 5 p.m., there are still no signs of him coming. Nora heads to meet him, and on her way there, she meets Celine. She asks her if she knows Yuta's whereabouts. Celine instead confesses that she knows Nora isn't going back to Papua, as she has moved to Bali. After Nora denies these allegations, Celine pesters her into answering her questions. Where does she live in Papua, her address, her school name, and everything. Nora tells her that it's none of her business and is about to walk off, but gets pulled back by Celine. She keeps showering her with questions, but Nora isn't having any of it, so she walks off but gets tripped by Celine. Keenan sees this happen, and he helps Nora up. After Nora leaves to find Yuta, Keenan asks Celine why she would do this, and she tells Keenan that she really wants to know why Yuta lied about living in Japan and why Nora lied about moving to Papua. As they leave, Celine begs her friends not to tell anyone that she was the one who ordered the mixing of alcohol into Nora's drink. Nora ends up not finding Yuta, and she is sad about it. Keenan asks her why she is putting herself through so much trouble because of him. He is confused as to why she would do so much for Yuta. As Keenan sits by his piano, Celine tries to strike up a conversation, but Keenan is having none of it, so he gets up to leave. She grabs him back on the seat and begs him to hear her out. She rants about her personal life and how no one likes her. Nora is back home, and we see Yuta walk toward her, telling her that he is ready to meet her parents. Nora's dad tries his best not to beat up Yuda, but he gets punched right across the face. Her dad wants to know where Yuda has been all this time. Yuda gets an earful from Nora's dad, and they all end up at Yuda's uncle's place. Yuda's uncle tells Nora's family that if his parents were to find out about this, they would fly to Bali and kill Yuda right there and then. The uncle proposes finding the right time to tell them. The uncle proposes that Yuda and Nora get married, and this startles them as they never considered it. Later, she confides in her parents about it, and they think that she should get married. Even though her dad was super angry at Yuda, he can sort of understand where he was coming from as well. Yuda calls Nora to the beach and asks her what she thinks about marriage. Both of them are confused about it. Suddenly, Nora's former classmates walk up to her, and she is surprised to see them there. Celine apologizes to Nora as per Kenan's advice. She asks the duo if they are back together. Nora says that it's her private matter and she heads to leave, but Kenan has something to say to her. Kenan and Yuda get into yet another argument, and eventually, Yuda calls Nora his fiancée. Nora tells everyone that Yuda is lying and that they are not getting married. She is shocked by the words that came out of Yuda's mouth and borderline disgusted. Nora leaves and Yuda runs behind her. Nora really wonders why Yuda can't think before he speaks. She tells him that she can't get married to him just because she is pregnant with their child. Yuda decides to be ignorant and tells her that he only did this so that Kenan would stop bothering her. Nora is shocked that she has to keep repeating that Kenan and she are just friends, nothing more and nothing less. She doesn't understand the infatuation Yuda has with him. Nora doesn't want to be forced into marriage. In truth, she doesn't even know what marriage is about. She thinks that if she is forced into it, she will live a miserable life. Nora tries on some wedding dresses and thinks she must be insane for trying out a dress like this since she has no intentions of getting married. Someone sends a picture to Celine where they see Nora in wedding clothes. It confirms their suspicions of her being Yuda's fiancée. Celine, being the annoying person she is, forwards the pictures to everyone else to garner attention on herself as she is deprived of it. Nora's friends call her, asking if she is expecting a child. This catches Nora completely off guard. Her supposed friends start questioning her on the phone with everyone around them, not caring about her privacy. Nora is rightfully pissed that she was put on loudspeaker and she receives her photo in her wedding dress. She tells everyone that it's not that big of a deal, and they want her to prove that she isn't pregnant. Nora starts breaking down in tears. She calls Yuda, who picks up. She blames everything on him. At a rock climbing center, Nora puts a waist trainer on so that no one can see her rounded stomach. Right as she puts on her rock climbing gear, she sees someone fall down. But she still chooses to do it anyway. She reaches the top but falls back down after she gets sick. Kenan comes to the rescue yet again, and shuts the haters down by telling them they can talk to his aunt about it and is sure that Nora isn't pregnant. He turns his head toward Yuda and tells him that he is a coward for supporting her to do such a dangerous thing. He should be holding her back instead. Nora explains her and Yuda's situation to the crowd while not mentioning that she is pregnant. Kenan drags Celine to another area and asks her if this rock climbing was her idea. Celine refuses to have any part in this and blames it on her friend. Kenan doesn't understand what Celine has against Nora, and Celine decides to act like a pick-me and tells Kenan that she is scared of him getting hurt. Nora heads to her doctor and tells her about her rock climbing incident. Everything is okay with the baby, but Nora pulled her muscle too hard. If Nora keeps this up, her baby will get injured. Nora feels a kick, and Yuda asks if it's okay for him to touch her stomach. Yuda feels the baby kick, and he is very happy. Nora locks in and takes Yuda's hand off her stomach, thanking him for taking her to the doctor. We also find out that they are having a baby girl. Nora realizes that she dropped her diary somewhere. Unsurprisingly, Celine's friend finds it, and it has all the evidence of Nora's pregnancy attached. Later, Yuda and Kenan get into a scuffle, and Celine decides it's the perfect time to lock Nora into the bathroom. Celine's friend stops Kenan and Yuda from fighting and tells them that Nora is in trouble. They help Nora out, and she isn't happy to see that the duo fought again. There's a final match between Kenan and Yuda's team. Kenan's team ends up winning, and Kenan asks Nora out to go outside. She says she can't go and makes up an excuse. Kenan also adds that he needs to return her mother's ultrasound photo, which he found in the hotel lobby. The name was ripped off, but the last name was the same as Nora's. Yuda talks to his parents about marriage. Nora heads outside with Kenan, and he gets into yet another fight with Yuda, but eventually, Kenan ends up confessing his love for Nora. Nora leaves and apologizes to Kenan. She tells Yuda to behave, and Yuda tells her that he talked with his parents on the phone, but he didn't end up telling them about the marriage part, which further infuriates Nora as she is now convinced that Yuda isn't being serious with her. It's Nora's birthday, and she's surprised by her parents with a nice cake. She thinks of a wish as she blows out her birthday candles. For her 17th birthday wish, She wants Yuda to show her that he is being serious, and only then will she agree to marry him. Celine's friend, Kiki, the one who found the diary, finishes reading it and calls Nora. Nora arrives and asks Kiki if she told anyone about the diary, but thankfully, she didn't. As Kiki puts her hand in her bag to get Nora's diary out, someone snatches the bag away from Kiki's hands. Kenan rushes over and runs after the thief, but he ends up leaving with the bag. Kenan calls Nora someplace else and gives her a gift. It's a smart bracelet. It vibrates if someone wants to talk. If Nora ever wants to talk to Kenan, she can tap on the bracelet, and it will let Kenan know. Yet again, Yuda arrives out of nowhere, and Kenan leaves. Nora briefs Yuda on what happened to the diary. It turns out that Celine had ordered the thief to steal from Kiki, and now she has the bag. Thankfully, Kiki swapped Nora's diary with a different book, and the original diary is given back to Nora by Yuda. Yuda buys the wedding dress that Nora had tried on so that she can wear it on their wedding day. Yuda is serious about this. He will tell his parents about it and everything. He wants to prove that he is committed. The duo shares a hug, and Kenan, who had been contemplating confessing his feelings again, sees this. He is heartbroken and heads back to his hotel. There, he meets with the annoying Celine, who asks him what's wrong. He tells her that he saw Yuda and Nora hugging, which made his plans go down the drain. Celine acts sympathetic, hoping to get attention from Kenan and make him think of her as an ally. She celebrates with her friend outside. Meanwhile, back in the hotel room, Kiki demands that Celine and her friend give her bag back. She also tells them that she has alerted the police about the situation. Eventually, they give the bag back, fearing the police involvement. The final basketball match takes place, and Yuda's team wins. After his defeat, Kenan is on his way back to Jakarta, and he talks to Nora on the phone. She asks him why he is ignoring her, and he replies that it's because Yuda is going to abandon her again, and she will be sad all over again. Nora's dad talks to Yuda's dad over the phone, and Yuda's parents are supposed to come over the next day. However, they don't end up showing up. Nora's dad heads to Yuda's uncle's place to inquire about the situation. There, he finds out that Yuda's parents weren't even in Bali in the first place. Yuda is also nowhere to be seen. In the end, Nora finds an apology letter from Yuda, where he tells her that he is going back to Japan, and she is heartbroken just as Kenan had predicted.